You leave me at 52. If you cannot stress me out and keep it calm, at 45, we'll call it a day and we'll actually get to do something special. So at 45, there's a treat if we can keep it together.
Is it chocolate?
And we have to keep it together. I do not promise the treat. In fact, I might just eat the treat without you if you stress me out. Are you trying to volunteer for this too? Okay. I have all three of you in mind. Hold on. Let me get all my words out first. Last week, I gave you time during class to work on page 32 through 34. Not most. 3 or 4 people showed me that already. Most have not. You need to show me that today or at the latest tomorrow, because you know during your test tomorrow, I'm going to type in the zeros for those who did not show it to me. It was 32 through 34. It's in your packet. When I get done rambling, if you have it done, it's a great idea. Come show it to me. If you don't have it done, you want to go ahead and finish up those last 2 and then come show it to me, that's fine. It was 32 through 34 in your giant packet. So that's the first thing I wanted to discuss today. Remember, you had homework, but really, most of us had it done Friday. We just didn't show it to Miss Compton. So you want to show me that. Okay, the second thing I want to discuss, some people, bless their hearts, I think. I did not have their piecewise quiz graded last Friday. I have everyone's graded now, although none of the scores are in now yet. I need to give you that and let you look at the key if you would like. If you would like to retest, I'll make this special for 3rd. You could come redo that in the morning, or I'll even say Wednesday morning is fine for this piecewise quiz. However, you and I both know it's on the test tomorrow. So you've got to get it. Everyone in the room is taking the test tomorrow regardless. So even if you mess up the piecewise quiz and you want to retake it, yes, you can, but you need to figure it out and get your life right before tomorrow. So you might want to talk to me, or you've heard me, maybe you want to talk to someone in your group, maybe they can help you. Something. You need to do something. Today is your day to send out that SOS signal, because otherwise the test is tomorrow. SOS, send out fine. Okay, your test is tomorrow, and we're going to look at the study guide in just a second. I meant to ask it, and that way I could give you points, but it didn't come out that way, did it? Oh, well. Okay, let's go ahead and go over these math workshops, and then we'll have a chance to get us some points by answering some questions with the study guide. Oh, does someone have their study guide handy and pretty blank? Bless you, thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, so Travis, if you don't mind, I'm going to let table 6 handle number 1, because they were wanting to too. Okay, and if they mess up, then we'll let you steal it. Table 6, you were wanting to handle number 1, ma'am? Shouldn't it be minus 3y squared? Okay, sorry. And her group gets a point. Someone last period wanted to factor out an 8. 8's great, but there is a bigger factor that goes into both terms, and that is 16. That is 16. We actually need to take a little bit of notes up at the top because we're changing up things. The past 2 weeks we've had factoring bell ringers, and every single problem with those factoring bell ringers has been a GCF problem. Every single problem we do this week is not necessarily a GCF problem. So let's discuss the number of terms and how that affects our decision making. Okay, so our problems can have 2 terms, like in number 1, 2 terms. They can have 3 terms, like number 3, 1, 2, 3 terms. Or they could have, I'm putting greater than 4, so just more than 4. For instance, number 2 has 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So we have a different plan of attack no matter how many terms there are. Yes, dear?
So shouldn't there be greater than or equal to 4 terms?
Yes, thank you. Greater than or equal to 4 terms. Okay. So 4 or more, and we're going to handle it a different way. Okay, every single time, no matter how many terms, my first thought is GCF. And my first thought, no matter what, is GCF. But if there's more than 2 terms, we might have a second thought after that. Okay, we'll come back and fill in that second thought in just a second. Let's go to number 5 and go ahead and handle that one now. Did you want to handle number 5, Drea? Okay, perfect. Perfect, and your group gets a point. Okay, so GCF is all we can really do if there are 2 terms. Then we're stuck. But when there are 3 terms, we do something different. Does anyone know what we do different when there are 3 terms after GCF? I hadn't asked this question in the class period, so it's okay you don't know. I'm going to put for real factor. For real. Like, we for real, and there was something you had to do if the x was 1, and there was something else you had to do if x wasn't 1, and we'll go back over that probably in the next couple math workshops to come. But, you know, if there were 3 terms, you might have to actually for real factor. Because what we've been doing so far, it's steps that lead us to factor, but we haven't, like, factored. Okay, and then if you have 4 terms, 4 or more, you can't factor because factoring is with 3. We do something called grouping. Grouping. We put them in groups, so we do grouping. So grouping is what it sounds like. For instance, we might take these 4 terms and split it up into 2 and 2. So we'll have one group and a second group. Okay, so with grouping, we split it up into 2 groups, and then we ask, is there anything I can factor out of that first group? If I factor out an A, your group can have a point. I would be left with A minus 4C from that first term. If I factor out an A, I'm left with A minus 4C. With the second term, what can I factor out? B, and I'm left with A minus 4C. Okay, are there any questions about that? We're not quite done with grouping. We're not all the way there. Does anyone notice anything interesting happening? Yes, ma'am.
You do A plus B in parentheses and then A minus 4C.
Yeah, so do you notice the A minus 4C happening twice? There's a reason for that. That's not just ironic. That happened intentionally because we did our grouping well. So one of our 2 terms is seriously going to be A minus 4C. Are they squared? No. It's not squared. So since there's 2 of them, we're going to, and they're the same in both, we're going to put A minus 4C. And then we're going to put what's left over out front. So we had an A left over. We had a positive B left over. So I'm going to put A plus B in its own set of parentheses. So let's say that again. We noticed the twins. So one group is A minus 4C. And then everyone outside, the A and the B, we put them in their own group. So we have A plus B, A minus 4C. Now, for those of us who wanted to make it A minus 4C squared and we're questioning our whole sanity, there is a way to, and this is the final answer, and we're happy with this. Our goal mostly with factoring is to end up with 2 things that look like A something something, A something something. Your teacher used to always have stuff like this. You wanted 2 things. It'll come back to you, I swear. Okay, there is a way to check ourselves from here. How can you check yourself?
Oh, you can multiply that.
You could, and there's a term for that. I mean, you could, yes, you can always, and this is technically distribution, but there was a fancy name for it. It reminds me of my kitchen. It reminds me of an item in my kitchen. Yes, and you're going to have a point. You could check with FOIL. So, if you were to FOIL this back out, A squared minus 4AC plus AB minus 4BC, I'm not crazy. So you could check yourself with FOIL. Okay, are there any questions about this math workshop today? Okay, and then let's go over some easy questions. Easy questions. Is this study guide a grade?
Yes.
Yes. When is it due? Okay. Every group can have 2 points. Okay, the first half of the study guide is not going to be your favorite. Why is that? It's entirely piecewise. So let's look at it and make sure we're on the same page before I let you go to town. First period, someone was confused about the ABC. So if you want to draw in lines, you can. The first A, B, and C go with that first function. The second A, B, and C go with that second function. And the third A, B, and C go with that third function. So if you want to draw in the lines because you were going to get confused, you can. That's not a bad idea. Most people, not everybody, but most people have the evaluating down like that. If you're stuck on the evaluating, I promise it's a really easy part. You're just overthinking your life. If you'll ask one of your group, they can help you with that. Evaluating is something that no one should miss. But a lot of people make mistakes on the graphing, specifically because they don't follow the directions. What part of the directions do most people skip? Yes. Do you know how many people didn't do domain and range on their quiz? I would say over 20%. So over a fifth of the class, which means they lost 4 points per problem just because they didn't state the domain and the range. And that was on a 50-point quiz. Imagine on a 100-point test how much that's going to mean. Okay, there is a good guess for the domain and the range. What is the good guess?
Negative infinity.
Okay, that is the right answer for the domain. I'm even going to put a high percentage on it. I'm going to say 98% of the time that is the right answer for domain. Now, range is normally, because it's piecewise, range is normally a little more complicated and you want to think it through. But if you have no idea what you're doing, at least put that, domain and range, both this, rather than leave your paper blank. It's easier for me to feel sorry for you when you just make a mistake versus you just leave a whole bunch of stuff blank. Do we need to go back over that again? Okay, I'll graph one of them, I'll come help you with it. Okay, let's talk about how when I grade, what I graded on your quiz. That way you understand how I'm going to grade the test. I graded 3 things on your graphs. I graded, first of all, did you draw your fences in the correct spot? I had 2 people who put their fence at 2 every single time. I don't know why. For instance, on number 6, my fences would be at -3 and +3. I need to know that you were using those inequalities to draw your fences. So my first thing I look at is, did Jessica draw her fences? If she doesn't even draw her fences in the right spot, I really doubt she knows what she's doing. It's probably not going to go well from there. Okay, and then step 2, I look at her graph. I want to know, for instance, with just F and then it's just 3, that should be a straight line at 3. Does she have just a straight line at 3? Or when it's -2x minus 3, did she put her intercept down at -3? Did she go down to left one? Or right one? I need to know what she did. Did she graph correctly? I'll look at her graphs. And then my third step is still, again, these are still the same 3 steps that you and I were using when we graphed. My third step when I grade stuff is to look at your fence points. Did you fill in a circle and it was supposed to be open circle? Did you leave it a closed circle and it was like vice versa? The fence points, did you actually think it through? Okay, so 4 through 9 should be okay if you keep this in mind. The fences, I look at your graph and your fence points. If you think, if we draw a graph and it has 2 fences, it should have something in the middle, something on one side, and something on the other side. Never in my life have we done a piecewise example where there were 2 pieces in the middle, or 2 pieces to the left, or 2 pieces to the right. It should be 1 piece per fence. 1 piece per fence. Okay, flip to the back. And if piecewise is where you're stuck, maybe you want to start on the back to begin with. On the back, it's all the fun ones you enjoy in life. Let's look at the bottom. So the first, if there's 3 things we learned piecewise this chapter, or this section, or whatever. We've learned graphing inequalities. I bet Grace is going to rock graphing inequalities. For instance, on number 17, she'll put her intercept at -2. She'll counter flip correctly. She'll use a dotted line because it's not equal to. It's greater than, so she shades above. You understood those words. I think you can handle 17. If Abby Grace is going to make a mistake, it's going to be on a problem like 18, 19, or 21, because she has to rearrange the equation and put it in y = mx + b, and she might make a mistake. What mistake could Abby Grace make?
Not put in y equals mx.
Well, yeah, she's gotta rearrange it so it's y and mx plus b. She's got it. But what I was gonna write, the one mistake, and you can have a point for that, she might not flip when do you flip the inequality?
When you divide by negative.
When you multiply or divide by a negative. So, for instance, on number 18, I already know since it's a negative 5, that's one where she would flip it. I just know. And if she's going to make a mistake, she's not going to flip it, and she's going to end up shading the wrong region. She's going to shade above, and she should have shaded below. So that's the only thing she might mess up on that section. Otherwise, she's got it. In fact, everyone in the room has it, because everyone passed a checkpoint on it. Okay, and then 10 through 15, Abby Grace is not going to mess up either. Why is that? What does she get? What could help her with 10 through 15? That graphing calculator. So let's look, for instance, at number 11. Now, we talked about last week that we can instantly know what we're supposed to do. That minus 2 means left or right 2. Right 2, and then the plus 3 means... So I'm going right 2, up 3, and then I can easily count my graph from there. And if you understood that, great. And you got it, and good for you. However, regardless, you get this graphing calculator. You could just graph this on the calculator. So let's discuss the graphing calculator really fast, because if you think I'm going to answer your questions about the graphing calculator tomorrow, you're wrong. Okay, so if we go to y equals, I'm wanting to do absolute value x. I press math. I scroll over 1. I see ABS at the top. I press enter. And now it's absolute valuing it for me. So then I press x minus 2, and then I put plus 3 on the outside. Xavier might be a genius, but if Xavier doesn't put the plus 3 on the outside the way it was on his paper, his calculator is going to graph it wrong. A lot of people who graph wrong is because they typed it in wrong. Yes, dear.
What if it was like that, and that was 1/3 of how we do that?
With the 1/3 out front? That's a good question, because I don't think you were here when I used to teach that, so I don't think you were here when we went over that. If you're wanting to do a fraction, let me go on the next line now. Come on. Okay, if you're wanting to do a fraction, if you press alpha, then y equals, you can easily do a fraction. The first button down, so I could do like 3 over 4, math, abs x.
If you want to do a fraction, you can press
Alpha y equals, and I understood why Corbin didn't remember that, but we already hit that. He wasn't here. Alpha y equals, and you get to that lovely fraction button. But if you're really lazy, you could just do 3 over 4 in parentheses. And then absolute value, whatever it is you're wanting to do. Yes, dear. I don't know what words you say. What? Yes, and again, reminder about absolute value. If you've got the black calculator, you've got to do in parentheses. It doesn't look like the lovely bars on the screen. Okay, so let's say Drea types it in right. She presses graph. And lo and behold, she's got this thing on there. She needs to put this on her paper. What button can she press to help her get this onto her paper?
and she pressed save and then table.
She could press, was it you, Andrew? Was it you? It was you and you, so 1 and 2 get a point. You could do second table and get the exact table values. For instance, I could put a point at 3, 4. I'm not going to know if Jonathan actually understood how to transform it or if Jonathan just knew how to use his calculator. As long as he has it right on his paper, I'm not going to be mad. Okay, but let's say you don't want to press second table. What other button could help you figure out the points on the graph?
Trace.
Trace. Maybe you want to ask it what's the value at 3. You can type in 3. It tells you, oh, graph 3, 4. And then it tells you 3, 4. It tells you those points that you could get from that table. Okay, are there any questions about the calculator? Okay, we also discussed Zoom and Zoom Standard. If Jessica asked me a question about zooming or something like that, or like her calculator's going crazy, of course I'll gladly look at it. But if Jessica asks me where the absolute value button is, I'm going to be mad and I'm not going to help you. I'm sorry, but we've already been over that. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to say. The back half makes it look like an easy test. The front half is like, man, if I just got my life right after that quiz, everything would be okay. So you should be okay. I will gladly walk around and help you. And of course, I'm posting my key later this afternoon. We're gonna call it a day at, I forgot whatever time I said.
45.
I said 45 minutes. So look, it's only like 15 minutes away. Good.